In this video, I will be ranking all mythical weapons. Most of these weapons are added when Chili Room dropped the Rosemary Island update and the Three Kingdom Gunfight update. And these weapons can also be obtained from the Mythical Weapon Crate in the Season Shop. To make this a little easier for me to rank, I would assume that every run we would be immune to all negative effects like fire, poison, collision, and ice, and that all mythical weapons are fully awakened. And I will only be playing normal dungeon badass mode. Before I put these weapons on the tier list, I won't be counting legendary hero converters, since they aren't really weapons even though they can be crafted. Despite that, I would still rank them anyways. All converters require you to have 2 max-out characters in order to get that specific legendary hero, except for this one. For this one, you will need to bring the Serenade pet into the dungeon and collect 999 cells, which you can do it within one playthrough. Okay, now on to the ranking. F tier. Because once you craft the converter, you would also get the legendary hero as well. So why the hell would you waste your resource to craft it when you can just play the character itself? Oh, it's because of that. Basically, once you quit midway or lose a game, that will turn into 0%, forcing you to use these converters. Not gonna lie, I almost forgotten this feature existed until I recorded this video, because I normally don't use legendary heroes since there are already better options. Plus, I don't need to pay money just to get those few legendary heroes. Finally, on to the actual weapons. On E tier, we have Jade Vase. This weapon costs 20 energy. Once used, it releases these flying orbs that can increase weapon damage by 20% for 6 seconds, regain 10% of energy, heals 30% of the character's health, and has a 30-second cooldown after each use, since its mechanic revolves around percentages. So, by default, the higher the energy capacity and health of your character, the higher the benefits you get from each use. Most characters have 200 energy capacity, meaning that most of them have a net 0 when trying to restore their energy back. Plus, its 30-second cooldown makes it a weapon that is used before going into a dungeon or boss and must be paired with a better weapon. Even though this weapon can heal followers and other players as well, it still isn't worth it and is very dependent on what other weapon you are using. There are just better options on this list. Now on to D tier. On this tier, it can be summarized as weapons that have gimmicks that are pretty bad. On the lower end of this tier is the Taihasu of Windrush. This weapon basically summons a bunch of winds that deal 2 damage while consuming 1 energy every use. Other than that, every time you move there is a chance for you to summon boxes from the sky when you are holding it or not. Even though this weapon has a high attack speed, using this weapon makes you have a hard time killing anything. And the boxes just obstruct your way. Now on to Fuji's shield. This shield uses 3 energy to perform a 360-degree attack that deals 7 damage, and also inflicts burn damage as well as briefly stunning enemies caught in its attack. It also adds 1 shield to your character. And the most important part, when you get damage, the shield automatically attacks. Unfortunately, however, without any efficient way to defeat enemies quickly at a distance and having quite the small area of attack. In addition to its attack being unable to destroy bullets even though it's a shield. The only good thing is the +1 shield. Plus, it's pretty expensive to make, making it less viable when compared to other weapons. Alright, on to C tier. This tier represents weapons that are pretty decent and useful. but of certain aspects like gimmick or certain stats like damage being on the weaker side. On the bottom of the list is the Flying Dagger Miss No Doubter. This weapon has a total of 4 daggers when fully recharged. Throwing all of them uses up to energy. This dagger can bounce to other nearby enemies upon landing a critical hit. Excellent gimmick for a weapon. However, due to it only dealing 3 damage and requiring other buffs to make it better. And also due to it being daggers. It can't protect you when you are overwhelmed by bullets. This makes it a pretty meh weapon. Next we have Buddha's Palm. This weapon has 2 types of attacks. When you press the normal attack button, you will perform a lunging fist attack dealing 12 damage and does not consume any energy. When you press this button, you will perform a palm slam dealing 20 for damage, using up 3 energy. Other than that, this weapon can also perform 3 different moves. For the first style, you need to perform 2 punches, then press the second button. You will release a cutting slash dealing 16 damage, which can destroy bullets in its way. For the second style, you have to press the second button twice, then first button, then press the second button, performing a bigger Buddha Palm Slam dealing 20 damage and a small Earthquake dealing 20 for damage, stunning briefly as well. For the third style, perform first button, second button, first button, then second button. You will release 3 spinning balls that surround you that lasts 10 seconds and destroy bullets and deal 8 damage, but will undergo cooldown once one of the balls hit an enemy. This weapon suffers from having too many combo buttons, requiring a lot more time to master it, and you would probably be performing the cutting slash most of the time, which is best paired with Warliage. And personally, I hate weapons that lunge you forward, which probably makes you more vulnerable to bullets or enemy attacks if you are not careful enough. Due to this weapon having a more complex gimmick, which in turn makes you possibly more vulnerable, puts it at C tier. Next is Butterfly Dance. This staff shoots out butterflies that deal 4 damage, consuming 2 energy per butterfly. Shooting certain amounts of butterflies causes the staff to undergo a charged state. The staff releases the butterflies to times faster and costs 0 energy whilst increasing critical chance. Plus, it also increases damage of other staff weapons that you brought along. In addition, it increases the player's energy capacity by 60 and replenishes it by 60 energy every new level. A pretty solid staff and rapid-firing weapon. It suffers from overly rapid depletion of energy, especially in higher levels. And of course, since it only can shoot out butterflies, you will have to beg for cover. I couldn't put it any higher than C tier. Onto the 3-pointed double-edged blade. This melee weapon performs 3 continuous thrust attacks. Every time you use a skill, the weapon will be charged, giving itself extra 3 combo hits that lasts for seconds, but has a cooldown of 12 seconds. It also gives 1 additional health to the player. What makes this weapon great is that each time it attacks, it quickly unleashes thrust attacks, allowing you to swim through swarms of bullets with ease. But this weapon does have a split-second cooldown after each attack, so just be aware of that. And also due to its lower damage output and smaller range attacks. When compared with other melee weapons, this weapon just looks like nothing. On to B tier, this tier belongs to weapons that have great gimmicks but have few flaws of their own, such as type of weapon, attack speed, and range. On the lower end, we have Staff of Magic Crystal. You use up to energy to deal a 16 damage splash attack. Using your skill summons a small orb on the ground. The maximum orb allowed is 5. Using the skill again will move the first one to your current location. Within a certain range, your staff will be connected to the orbs by a line which can deal for damage. Each orb will now erupt and deal for damage per second when connected. When you attack, the orbs will sync with you when connected to you. And holding down and charging up this weapon causes it to instantly erupt 3 times, making all the orbs that are connected to you to erupt as well. This staff suffers from its own gimmick since you have to be within a 14-tile radius to connect with your orbs in order to unlock its full potential. And due to it not being able to shoot out projectiles, requires you to close your distance with enemies. Makes you extremely prone to getting damaged by bullets. Next, we have 5 Color Pen. This melee weapon has the ability to inflict all types of elemental damage. It deals 5 damage for all elemental attacks, and its electric effect causes a lightning chain attack. This weapon benefits greatly when paired with Wizard or any character that has element-based skill, since it can buff elemental damage for characters and weapons by 4. Although this weapon can inflict elemental damage, due to its limited range and attack speed, it deserves B tier. Now on to Heaven and Earth Bow. This bow uses up 3 energy to shoot out an arrow that can pierce enemies, dealing 8 damage. When fully charged, the arrow deals 16 damage. And when the arrow makes contact with an enemy, there will be 6 small arrows split out of the enemy, dealing 4 damage each. Number of arrow that splits out decreases when the bow is not fully charged. When a fully drawn arrow is shot, it deals a total of 40 damage without crit. Plus, when you use a skill, the arrow now can split up to 10 arrows. Increase the total damage to 56 without crit. This bow is the ultimate definition of invest everything in damage. But due to it being a bow, you are required to draw and release, makes it prone to miss your shot. There's another bow that negates this disadvantage. On the highest spot, we have Golden Dragon Scissors. You will perform for consecutive scissor chops, dealing 16 each. Then a dragon will appear and suck in enemies and deal 6 damage, costing 0 energy. The dragon circle animation does destroy projectiles, but the hitbox is kinda small and not obvious. Nonetheless, this weapon has a high attack speed and can deal good amount of damage whilst pulling enemies closer. Even though it's a great melee weapon, there are still even better choices that require less materials than this weapon. Now on to A tier. Here the weapons are very powerful and can pretty much be used on their own, but still have certain flaws unique to their own. First, we have Laser Lance. It shoots out a thin laser beam with limited range, dealing 7 damage every 0.2 seconds. After shooting for a while, the laser turns into a thicker laser and deals 12 damage every 0.2 seconds, whilst electrify enemies briefly, and every damage dealt cost 1 energy. Due to this, it can quickly consume your energy, so use it when you need to. Moreover, unlike all the other laser-type weapons, this weapon can pass through obstacles. However, due to it having a blind spot which requires you to maintain your distance. Overall, this weapon is very strong due to its attack speed even without the buffs. However, due to it being too offensive, it gets bottom A tier. Next is Nebula Cannon. This is a handgun that has a whole nebula built into it. It can shoot extremely fast, definitely less than 1 second. Every bullet deals 4 damage. Every bullet consumes to energy. For every 30 energy consumed, it triggers the cannon to fire a giant nebula explosion that sucks enemies in and deals 16 damage, but cannot destroy bullets. I know, very unfortunate. And it also can regenerate to energy per second. This handgun has high attack speed, high damage output, and great from crowd control. However, similar to the Laser Lance, it lacks defensive capabilities due to it being a handgun. Moving on, we have Bow of Crystal Core. This is the Heaven and Earth Bow, but it exchanges damage for higher crowd control gimmick. When it shoots an arrow, it deals 6 damage, and when full charged, it deals 14 damage for 1 energy only, and can pierce enemies when fully charged. Arrows now spawn crystals when hitting on walls. Hitting an enemy has a chance to summon a crystal, but when killing an enemy, it is guaranteed to summon a crystal. But this ability has a cooldown of 4 seconds. When drawing the bow, these crystals shoot out 8 spikes in all directions, each dealing 8 damage. What makes this weapon better is that using other bows to kill enemies also spawn crystal and cause them to erupt, but at a smaller scale. However, spikes erupted from the crystals do not spawn another crystal upon killing an enemy. Plus, since its speed to be fully charged is very fast even without the fast charge buff. Its ability to crowd control is the best among all the bow weapons. However, due to its piercing ability, arrows can't be guaranteed to spawn a crystal upon hitting on bosses and deal high amounts of damage. Plus, due to it being unable to destroy bullets in some way, makes it less viable compared to the next 2 weapons. It's still a very good weapon though. Onto Sword of Sacrifice. This is a sword that can deal 16 damage per swing. It exchanges its attack speed for a large attack area. Tapping on the second button consumes 3 energy and unleashes a purple explosion around the user, dealing 16 damage. Hitting enemies with it has a 50% chance to create a purple puddle that deals 2 damage per second. If an enemy dies in it, they would explode and deal 16 damage. Tapping on the second button allows you to cause explosions on all the puddles formed. Since it is a melee weapon, you can destroy bullets in your way and defend yourself. But the slow attack speed might cause you some trouble. And its ability to crowd control is pretty good, though you need to get close to your enemies to get the full effect. Plus, after you summon a purple puddle on the boss, you can hide in a corner to make it explode. Pretty nifty. Next is Emerald Crescent. First button performs a normal slash attack, dealing 12, costing 0 energy. However, for the second button, it performs a spin attack, dealing 10 damage and consumes 2 energy. There's one cool gimmick for this weapon. When you attack whilst alternating between the first and second button, there will be alphabets on top of you. When you reach S, you can press the second button, then you would be able to perform a smash attack, dealing 46 crit damage, costing 0 energy. And the best feature is that after every leaping slash, you undergo an increase in attack speed 4 seconds, allowing you to quickly cycle back to your leaping slash. Personally speaking, don't press the buttons too fast, otherwise your weapon would just perform the spinning slash. Even though this weapon does not have any crowd control abilities like the previous ones, it makes it up by having a high attack speed, attack radius, and decent damage. Finally, on to S tier. These are weapons that are pretty much an overkill. Having a low crafting cost and having broken abilities, you can just strictly use these weapons to win a whole game. Plus, pairing it with Warliege makes these weapons even deadlier. In bottom S, we have Dragon Slayer. First button performs a downward slash that deals 13 damage, while the second button performs an upward slash that deals 19 damage, whilst releasing a cutting slash which can pierce through anything and destroy any bullets in its path, dealing 15 damage. After that, the second button disappears for 3 seconds. 5 successful hits allows the player to stand still and perform a double earthquake attack when the second button is pressed. The first smaller earthquake deals 19 damage, and the next earthquake is larger and can deal 26 damage, plus it can also destroy bullets. In addition, Dragon Slayer can become a follower and attack enemies when not in use. Even though this weapon has many great abilities, but due to its cooldown it can't dish out as much damage as the next 2. This melee weapon performs normal slash that deal 12 damage for 0 energy cost. When you enter a new level, your blade would be in a charged state. The next attack performs a huge cutting slash that can destroy bullets and deals 40 to damage. This can be performed for times consecutively, costing 10 energy each. After that, 6 seconds is required to return to its charged state, and all of its cutting slashes can cause freeze. This weapon does not require a second button to make it extremely OP, and it has a higher attack speed compared to Dragon Slayer. This is basically the red version of the Moonshine Frost Blade, just that now it gave up the Frost ability for more cutting slashes. The blade will perform to slashes dealing 10 damage each and one thrust, lunging the player forward, dealing 16 damage. Performing 5 sets of these attacks causes the blade to undergo a rampage state, which lasts 7 seconds, allowing it to unleash 3 cutting slash per attack, consuming 5 energy and deal 13 damage each, as well as increasing the normal slashes from 10 to 13 damage and the thrust attack from 16 damage to 20 damage. These cutting slashes can also destroy bullets. When you stop attacking, Skypiercer will return to original state very quickly. But as long as you continue to slash, Rampage mode will continue even after 7 seconds, making this weapon the deadliest among all the others, dealing 119 damage without crit for each set of attacks. Yeah, here's the tier list. Comment down below yours. Please subscribe if you enjoyed.